Everyone's screaming, bear market. Headlines are full of fear, and social media is convinced that we're heading off a cliff. What if I told you the smartest players in the room are buying, building, and betting on a completely different outcome? We've got billionaires flipping bullish, altcoin signals flashing, and stablecoin supply is exploding. And yet, most people are still on the sidelines, paralyzed by noise. So what's really going on? Is this a trapdoor into recession or a reset before the next leg higher? And by the end of today's show, we're going to highlight one of the most overlooked opportunities in the entire market that almost nobody is talking about yet. Let's dive in. So let's talk about sentiment because it's shifting fast. One of Bitcoin's most famous skeptics, Ray Dalio, just said he owns Bitcoin. Yep, the same Dalio who warned about volatility and regulation is now recommending that people hold 10 to 15% in Bitcoin and gold as a hedge against inflation. And the kicker, you can literally pull up clips from 2023 where he was dismissing Bitcoin and then cut to today, and now he's on board.
Let me state what I believe about crypto with Bitcoin. I think it has no relation to anything. It's a tiny thing that gets a disproportionate attention. It's not going to be an effective money. It's not an effective storeholder wealth. First of all, I think that, and I own crypto. I own some Bitcoin. So you actually reduce your risk by having some in the portfolio, somewhere between 10 and 15% of the portfolio.
So why is Ray so significant? Well, he's the founder of Bridgewater Associates. It's the world's largest hedge fund, established in 1975, and Ray is listed multiple times among Time Magazine's 100 most influential people and Bloomberg Market's 50 most influential list. You can say that Ray Dalio and Bridgewater have a lot of influence in this market. And that's not retail speculation. That's institutional rotation. Be on the timeline long enough, and all of the critics eventually become Bitcoiners. It's deja vu from the 1970s. Back then, inflation was raging, trust in the government was collapsing, and smart money rotated into gold. Now, it's the same setup. This time, it's digital, portable, and decentralized. In other words, history's rhyming, and the capital is already flowing. Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, bought the dip, adding another 7,000 Bitcoin to their treasury. They just crossed 506,000 Bitcoin. Woo! That is 2.4% of all of the Bitcoin in existence. That's over $44 billion at current prices. One company. And if you're thinking, well, that's just Sailor being Sailor, take a look at the parabolic accumulation since Q4 2024. The pace now rivals Bitcoin ETF inflows. That's how aggressive it's gotten. Meanwhile, Marathon holds 46,000 BTC, Riot's just 19,000. And it's funny that I would put this just 19,000 in here because it gives you some sort of context on the scale of what's going on. I mean, with Strategy owning over 500,000, sure, Riot holding just 19,000 seems small, but what would you do for 19,000 Bitcoin? Yeah, exactly. MicroStrategy is outpacing mining companies by a factor of 10 to 25x. This isn't bear market behavior, folks. This is a supply vacuum behavior. It's hoovering up all the Bitcoin in existence. Do you understand what is going on? But what have we been afraid of? What has been spooking the markets? Well, for weeks, Trump foreshadowed tariffs, signing executive orders to impose tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. He even called them the big one to be announced on April 2nd, which he dubbed Liberation Day. We're finally starting to get the full picture. 2.5 million. That's how many individual tariffs would be required by a good by good or country by country reciprocal tariff plan. According to UBS, Pingle, their chief economist, I thought it was Pringle when I first saw it, but it's Pingle, their chief economist, said it would be unlikely to turn such a policy by next week. And Trump, well, he seemed to acknowledge a scale during his latest press conference. Let's take a look.
I may give a lot of countries breaks, but it's reciprocal, but we might be even nicer than that. You know, we've been very nice to a lot of countries for a long time, but I call it Liberation Day. April 2nd is Liberation Day.
Seems real scary, right? Since then, the S&P has rebounded sharply. Tariff fears are easing, and the sell-off, turns out it was just a knee-jerk reaction. $1.35 trillion was added back to the US stock markets yesterday. $1.35 trillion added back to the stock market yesterday. Let that sink in. Now, Trump is expected to not even impose sector-specific tariffs on April 2nd. But maybe Trump doesn't need to wield the big stick. According to him, the tariffs are already getting the job done.
We had a very, very good cabinet meeting. We're on our way to some tremendous numbers. I think, first of all, many companies are now moving into the United States. They're coming back. Some of them left us from many years ago, decades ago, and they're all coming back. We have probably identified maybe $4 trillion worth of companies moving back or going to move back. Many of them have announced it's going to be tremendous jobs, high-paying jobs too. They and others are going to be making parts and other things in those plants so that it's one-stop shopping finally.
And if you want a true contrarian signal, just check who suddenly turned bullish. Arthur Hayes just made one of the most aggressive calls yet. Bitcoin hits 110,000 before it retests 76,500. Remember, this was the same Arthur Hayes who called for 70,000 back in February when Bitcoin was above 90,000. Well, he was right, wasn't he? Well, at least he was pretty close to being right. Will he be right again? Sometimes it's not the exact number, but the direction. Why is Arthur bullish? Because the Fed is shifting from quantitative tightening to QE, or quantitative easing, and Powell just repeated the infamous phrase, transitory inflation. Sorry about that. Transitory inflation. And if the macro is shifting, are there signals to back it up? According to Kobesi letter, the next 150 days will tell us whether we're headed for a recession or a recovery. Historically, after a 10% S&P drawdown, two things will happen. Either we drop another 5% and head into recession, or we bounce and avoid it. Right now, we are bouncing fast. Let's talk crypto liquidity. The stablecoin market cap just hit new all-time high. In every previous bear cycle, stablecoin supply contracted. People were cashing out. Now, it's expanding. Capital is rotating into crypto, not out. This suggests investors aren't done. They're either DCAing, dollar cost averaging in, or preparing to buy. And that's not the only signal lighting up. Funding rates just went below T-bill yields for the first time in 2 years. And what happened the last two times? Well, altcoins exploded. 218% rally, 138% rally. It's a panic indicator. Everyone's so scared. Nobody wants risk. That's when the reversal happens. Got it? And we just hit that condition again. So with fear in the air, it's time to ask, who is paying attention? Moments like this, they're quiet. Headlines fade. Retail disengages. Just look at the views on this video. By the way, if you guys are enjoying the video and you're still here, destroy that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. My name is Chasse. Welcome. It's good to have you guys here. But that's when smart money builds positions. News slows, prices consolidate, and attention shifts elsewhere. That's when it's time to dig in. And we found something worth digging into. Sonic's native token S is now number 4 in mindshare, behind only Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol. That's massive, especially when you compare that visibility to its market cap. Even more bullish, Sonic's price has dropped 50%, while TVL has just kept climbing. That divergence, that equals strength. And guess who's building here? A good friend of the channel. You guys know him, Andre Cronje, the godfather of DeFi and the guy who built Yearn Finance.
So I do think right now there isn't a chain that competes with us in terms of decentralized finance. We have more prototypes and new stuff happening there than what I've seen anywhere else. I have a new thing that I am launching on top of Sonic as well.
He just revealed his new DEX. It's called Flying Tulip. It's a full-on DeFi super app, if you will. It's got killer features like 9 times LP, lower slippage, up to 50x leverage, integrated money markets, perps, options, and wallet-free onboarding, to name a few things. This is serious infrastructure. But like every opportunity, there's a nuance to be aware of. So we're talking about Sonic, right? Ticker S. And Sonic's airdrop is 190 million tokens, and it's coming up soon. But there's a unique vesting model. See, 25% of it unlocks instantly, and the rest vest over 9 months. But here's the twist. See, users can claim remaining tokens early instead of that 9 months, but they incur a burn penalty. This is designed to reduce dump pressure and reward, yes, reward long-term use. It's how you move from experimental tech to real-world use. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Sonic's TVL is approaching $1 billion. They've got integrations with Aave and Pendle and others. The chain handles real-time, currently, 10,000 transactions per second with less than 1 second finality, sub-second finality. That's not hype. This is actual infrastructure. Bottom line, even while people are arguing, is it a bull market? Are we in a bear market? I don't know. It's time to place your bets because it does seem like we're near the bottom, and it might be a good time to start looking at things that might be overlooked, like Sonic, for example, because sometimes some of the best opportunities are hiding in plain sight. There's new rails being built, and the guys building it, well, it's some of the sharpest minds in DeFi, cryptography, and decentralized ledger technology. But don't take my word for it, please. Dig into it. Dig into the ecosystem. Go check it out. I'm just trying to bring you guys updates as they come along. So yeah, everyone's yelling bear market, but the data, it's whispering something else, quietly, confidently, like smart money always does. Dalio flipping, MicroStrategy stacking, stablecoins surging, altcoin signals flashing, and a strong DeFi infrastructure play flying under the radar. This isn't fear, it's fuel. So ask yourself, are you listening to the noise or are you watching the flows? Because the market doesn't reward the loud, it rewards the early. Now is not the time to sit back. It's time to dig deeper, follow the money, track the narratives, and stay tuned because this cycle's defining opportunities won't be announced, they'll be discovered.